Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Econ number 27. It'll be 27 hours worth of content, actually 28 hours worth of content in there after this week, which is quite a lot, actually. So and some of you have been here since day one, so good job on that. Today we're going to talk about importing and exporting, but before that, we are going to first want to welcome new students in the class. You'll get used to this format pretty easily if you haven't seen it already in the membership portal, how we begin each week. But I'm iterating. All right, so the first update, I'm going to do one email per week. I think you might have noticed that. So it's going to have the homework and the webinar link in it just to reduce spam and so on and so forth. All right, Homeschool Dad channel. I want to show you what's going on here with my YouTube channel because I passed an important milestone last week. And I don't know if you can see it here or not, 1 million views. So I got to 1 million views on my Homeschool Dad channel, and my subscriber count is over 1,000, so it's 1266. And this is really all from, excuse me one second, it's all from the chess videos, okay, which I'm going to get into again in a second. So, okay, so what did we do last week? This is something that is tough to plan on. You don't know what's gonna take on YouTube. And I put up Homeschool Dad videos. I put up some rant videos, and really it's chess, right? Chess has just been a big draw. And so if you have something working for you in business or whatever in life, you got to kind of beat it to death, all right? And so what we decided to do was John and I use the YouTube success to help promote his website. So last week we put up 2 more videos, and as you can see in the middle of the video we put kidsgetrich.com. Okay, so this video only went up a week ago, has 1,100 views, and we have a link. Do I have a link in here? I don't think I do. I didn't put a link in the description, but it's on the screen. If you watch this video and you're a kid and it catches your interest, you might go to the website and sign up, and it did. So John got, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 signups just in the last week just from these YouTube videos, okay? And so this is something that we'll come back and look at. He needs to get people to sign up for his website, and as you all know, if you start a website now, it's invisible. It's absolutely invisible. Nobody can find it. Alexander's saying the chess videos are hilarious. You got to check out the last 2. The last 2 have a little bit more personality in them. And that's one thing you have to do if you create videos. You have to inject personality in them. Even this class, I try to, use funny memes, and I try to smack John a little bit and, lighten it up. So if you're competing with everybody else, you're competing with Netflix, with television, with email, you better be a little bit interesting. So you got to do the best job that you can, even if you're not an interesting person. All right. So these videos, and we put 2 of them up. We're going to do more of this, and so I'll show you right now. Well, I don't want to show it to you because it's got people's email addresses on it, but he's got 35 members of his website right now. So we'll track that number. So 35 this week, and we got to get over 1,000 at some point, before he could ever think to monetize it. All right. So let's update on that. Chrissy's newsletter, Homeschool Globe newsletter, of which Grayson is going to be featured in it this week. This is going to get mailed out this week. If you're not on the mailing list, send me your address. I cannot mail it to you unless I have your mailing address. All right, and there are a lot of people on here who have not given me their mailing address, which is crazy. All right, most kids really like this. All right, and so ideas, suggestions, and offers to present. Hopefully, Omar is going to come up maybe next week or soon and talk about how he's fixing laptops and cell phones. But anybody else who wants to get up and talk about something, hash out some ideas, anything really, just let me know, right? It's going to have to be, it's going to have to be good beneficial for the whole class. But sometimes just talking about stuff is beneficial. So don't be afraid. If there's something, if you want to write a book, if you want to start a YouTube channel, anything you want to do, if you want to, sell legal drugs or something, and you want to talk about it, we can bring you on and we can talk. This class is for you children and parents. It's not really for me, although I benefit from it too. All right, so let's go forward here. Today we're gonna start with the stock market, and first thing we'll do, well, I'll come back to that slide in a second. First thing we'll do is we'll look at what's been going on in the market in the last week. All right, so we punch up Dow Jones, and we can look at over the last 5 days. And over the last 5 days, actually let's do a month. Last month it basically went up. All right, so in the last 3 weeks, that short position I took on the Dow Jones has been going against me. As you can see, around April 19th, the Dow was around 20,400, and it just started levitating all the way back to basically its all-time high, 2,100 or 21,000. And then just yesterday, the market took a dump, as they say, we could talk about that, but I don't know, it's beyond the scope. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. All right. So if we look at my portfolio, we're going to try to start a new portfolio here today. I'm going to need your help on it. This is the position we had before we shorted 300. This is a live trade for those of you that don't know. I did this back in beginning of April. I actually shorted 300 shares of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I used DIA, which is a proxy for it. You can't actually short an average, but you can short basically a fund. And we haven't looked at this graph down below, but this graph down below is basically my profits. All right, so if I look at the all-time profits of this trade, actually I did it in the beginning of March, it looks like. If we start way on the left here, you'll see this is where I shorted the market. And since the market went down, my profits went up. These are really profits, this graph. I was profitable. I was up, I believe, close to 3,000 or no, 2,500 or something at one point. And then the last week and a half, 2 weeks actually, I gave all that profit back and almost went negative. Still haven't gone negative on that trade yet, thank God. And then yesterday, I made basically, 300 points in the Dow. It basically made $1,000 yesterday back on that trade. All right. So hopefully the market will crash and I'll be able to take that trade off profitably. But today I want to talk about something called pair trading. All right. So pair trading is a market strategy. How do I get rid of this thing? Okay. Pair trading is where you buy one stock, you bet on one stock, and you bet against another stock. Okay. So somebody tell me in the chat box why you would do that. All right. Now you can read what I have here on the slide. And you can even look at that graph. It shows buying Pepsi and KO is Coca-Cola. Right. Yeah, you would do it to make money. Obviously, you don't make any bets unless you want to make money. But what is the appeal? Why wouldn't I just buy? If I thought Coke was going down, or if I thought Coke was too high, why wouldn't I just bet against Coke? Why would I want to buy Pepsi too? Yeah, they are competitors, but what does that do for me? All right, I'm going to use a 4-letter word here, risk. If one goes down, the other goes up. Okay, now normally they move in tandem, right? Right. So think about if there's a race between, 100 people, and you say, I think this person is going to beat that person. Your only bet is on, Alexander beating Catherine. And there's 100 people racing. It doesn't matter what place Alexander comes in. No, it doesn't matter what place, as long as he's ahead of the person you bet on. So it's a little bit like that. I think Alexander thinks he's faster. Maybe we'll do that race. Speaking of races, so when I used to trade on the stock exchange in Philadelphia, I'd have an ugly jacket on, I'd have buy and sell tickets, and we used to fight all day over thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We hated each other. It was a real type of caveman experience. But when I did that, we'd always be betting on things because we have a lot of dead time. And it wasn't uncommon for one kid to say, I'm faster than you. And next thing you know, there's two guys out in the back alley, off of Market Street in Philadelphia, racing in the back alley with thousands of dollars bet on who's faster. So people do that. But getting back to pair trading, if you're long Coca-Cola and short Pepsi, if the stock market crashes, right? Probably not going to get killed because you have one short stock. You understand? If the stock market goes up to the moon, you're not going to lose too much on your Coca-Cola short because you're also long Pepsi. So generally speaking, they're going to move together. But you might say, I think Coke is a little bit higher than Pepsi. I want to short Coke and buy Pepsi. It's called a market neutral trading strategy. Neutral means you're not betting, on the market going up or down. This is all very hypothetical. So today I want to look at Apple and Facebook. Okay. So why do I want to look at Apple and Facebook? Well, most of you know a lot about those companies or are very familiar with them. You're very familiar with these companies. So what I want to do, let's first look at Apple. Apple's about $150. And the reason I chose these, Apple is $150 a share right now. And before we make any bets, let's just look at it. It's at an all-time high. Okay. It had kind of a weak 2015 and 2016, but since the election, it's basically levitated up 50%. Okay, and we'll come back to it in a second. Okay, so let's look at Facebook. So Facebook is around 150. Oh, it's down to 144. So Facebook is 144. All right, so let's look at an all-time chart of Facebook. Facebook hasn't been around as long as Apple. Right? It only looks like 2012 was its IPO. All right, but it's around 150 as well. So now I want to ask you in the chat box, how would we decide which one to buy and which one? Does anybody have any preference? Does anybody think that one is going to do better than the other? Let me know in the chat box. Facebook or Apple? And as you tell me, we'll decide which one we want to do. Facebook, what? Facebook does better? People are saying Facebook. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to reframe the question. Tell me which one to buy. Do we want to buy Facebook or do we want to buy Apple? And we'll have to, which one to buy, which one to sell. We're going to buy one and sell Apple. William, buy Apple or sell Apple? You guys are just typing Apple, Facebook in the thing. Okay. Buy Apple, sell Facebook, from James, Jean-Luc, and Julian. Okay. Interesting. I'm reading these now. Okay. Oh boy, you guys are splitting it down the middle with the buy Apple and sell Facebook, buy Facebook and sell Apple. Okay, so we're gonna have to decide one way or the other. So maybe I'm gonna have to decide because you guys basically just split down the middle on those answers, which is good, right? Facebook and Apple, very tough call. I want to sell Facebook and buy Apple. Now, I honestly could go either way on this. All right. Wait, what did I just say? Okay, let's go into portfolios. And let's create a new portfolio. So let's see, new portfolio. Create a new portfolio. And since we're big shots, let's call it Apple, Facebook pair. Okay. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to add Apple. Add to portfolio. Come on. Okay, now we need to buy it. Import transactions. No, we're not importing it. We are adding transaction data. Adding transaction data. So today we buy 1,000 shares. Today, let's just do today. We buy 1,000 shares of Apple. 1,000 shares of Apple. Let's just for the sake of argument, let's just say we bought them both at one. Now we can't do that. We have to buy them at one. We have to buy them where they are. 150.25. Okay. symbol is invalid or whatever. Let's just add transaction data and let's just sell short today 1,000 shares of Facebook. And where is Facebook? Facebook is add symbol. Yeah, Facebook. Let's see, where is Facebook? We said 144. $144.85. Okay. So let's see. Did it go in? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to just leave this here. We're going to get back to our class material stuff, and we'll just see how this does. So we bought Apple at 150, and we'll talk about it more next week for sure. And we sold it, and it's saved in here now. All right. So let's go back to our slides and get moving on class because we have a lot of stuff to cover. All right. So Ronald Reagan, old guy, dead, says you can't tax business. Business doesn't pay taxes. It collects taxes. What does that mean? Aren't there taxes on businesses? Don't they pay payroll taxes and Social Security tax? Don't they pay all sorts of taxes? What is Ronald Reagan saying here when he says you can't tax business? Business doesn't pay taxes. It collects taxes. Well, if business doesn't pay taxes, who pays taxes? The people pay taxes. Excellent, Alexander. The customer, good. This is a key idea here because if you raise the, if you put a tax on healthcare, if you put a tax on oil, it doesn't affect the oil company. It does a little bit because, well, put it this way. When they tax cigarettes, the price of cigarettes goes up to the person smoking $13 packs of cigarettes, and they might stop to buy altogether. So the tax does affect the company. They'll make the price higher or more excellent, but if they make the price too high, then people might not buy it. Okay? So taxes do affect businesses. It affects their demand. But what Reagan is saying here is that they just collect taxes. They just pass them on to the consumer. Last year or this year, they just added, I think, a 49-cent tax to gasoline in New Jersey. And that was just, nobody could do anything about it. Tax went up 50 cents a gallon in New Jersey last year. All right. That's what happens when taxes come. All right, and so we're going to talk about imports and exports and the trade barriers, which are really taxes and so on and so forth. All right, so imports and exports, the big picture. People naturally want to trade their goods and services freely. People have comparative advantages that can be mutually beneficial. I had that one good picture in the homework. Let me dredge it up. Where is it? I had that one good picture in the homework demonstrating comparative advantage right here. What is comparative advantage? Tall dude should specialize in apple picking. Short dude should specialize in strawberry picking. That's like if you have a country that's got a lot of good computer programmers, that country should specialize in information technology. And if another country has a lot of oil, they should specialize in, drilling oil. All right. So it's a big deal here. It's really at the root. It's the fundamental nature of humans to want to trade their goods and services, but the governments, they don't totally allow it. They erect trade barriers, policies, taxes, duties, all sorts of things to limit trading between, ambitious individuals who are naturally inclined to help each other. All right, so this is the backdrop of the import-export industry, but there's still tons of opportunities, and we're going to talk about something like very current. We're going to talk about fidget spinners in a minute, and tons of opportunities. And let's look at this last question here. So why is there often more opportunity in a less free market? Okay, so if there's a lot of regulations, and look, it's not easy to ship something over from India, get it through ports and customs and get it delivered and maintain the quality. It's not easy to do that, especially if you're ordering 1 million fidget spinners or something like that. So why is there more opportunity in a less free market? Somebody tell me in the chat box. I might even have a good quote on this. Anybody know who Paula Abdul is? Paula Abdul, she was a singer in the 80s. Your parents probably know who she is. She said, if you go the extra mile, there's no traffic out there. Okay. So when you create something like, the insurance market, right? Like if you want to start a health insurance company or a life insurance company, it's really hard to do. It's all sorts of regulations. But because it's hard to do, that's where all the opportunity is. Okay. So when you think about your own personal business ideas, anybody can put a lemonade stand up on a hot day. That's easy to do. But if you can figure out how to get into a market that's hard to get into, you could be the only one there. All right. So there's often more opportunity where things are difficult. And I would say that, importing over from China, that's very scary. And we'll talk about that stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So some of the vocab we need to know: price dumping. We don't have a lot of time because I spent too much time on the stock market. But price dumping is when a country comes in and sells something at a low price, hypothetically, to drive out all the competitors. All right. You see this in all sorts of businesses. You even see it in real estate. You see it in law firms. You see it if somebody, floods Google AdWords and just, what's that one? If you Google, I think it's homeschooling. I think if you Google homeschooling, no, there used to be something called K-12 education that would come up. If I type in online school, they're not there anymore. Okay, let's pull this over. If you type in online school, right, to show up first in Google for online school, you have to pay a lot of money. Okay, and before this company here, this K12.com, this one used to be first. Now they're not paying for it anymore. This is not a paid ad. This is a paid ad. University of Phoenix, Ashford University, DeVry, and online colleges. They're all paying for the top spots. But K-12 used to spend, I don't know, $100 million a year in advertising. And so if you ever wanted to do like online homeschooling and you wanted to show up in Google AdWords, you'd have to compete with them. And they had millions and millions of dollars. But they've since gone pretty much bankrupt. All right. So that's another example of price dumping. All right. A deadweight loss is an economic concept where, if you create a tax on something, you get less of it delivered to, people at a higher price than they want to pay. All right. So that's an economic concept that's in all these textbooks. It's really nothing that's going to make you any money, but it's a concept to understand that whenever third parties, be they governments or whomever, pirates out in the sea, whenever they interfere with free trade, there's always a loss of economic efficiency. All right. A longshoreman is a guy, a dock worker, could be a woman, who works, on the ships. And I say they're often unionized because they are. I know they were in Philadelphia. They are in California. Because you might, order 1 million fidget spinners to come in, and they might come into a port in Los Angeles, and the longshoremen might be on strike, and they might just be refusing to unload the ships. And you could have a problem by the time those fidget spinners come off. Maybe you are, maybe they're not popular anymore, or maybe somebody else has, sold and flooded the market with them. All right. A container, I think most of you know what a container is. Let me just pull up a picture. Because I didn't know what it, when I was your age, I didn't know what a container ship was. I really didn't. Just pull this in here. Okay, this is a container ship. And yeah, they go across the oceans, even through the canals, stacked to the hilt. Right? I didn't know what a container was. When I was working for these guys in Philadelphia, one of them had a toy company on the side. And let me see if I can show you what he had. Monkey backpack. Okay. This is what he had. See this? It's a backpack that's a stuffed animal. So I'm working for this guy, and he's a stock options trader, a stock trader. But these backpacks, he was importing them from China. and he asked if we could help unload them. And I didn't even know what a container was. We go to some parking lot, and we're in the back of this container, and we were pulling out thousands of these, monkey backpacks that he would sell to toy stores and whatever. And he made a lot of money doing it because he was getting them made in China for like $11, and I think he was selling them for 25 or 30. All right. So when I was your age, I didn't know what a container was. All right. So that's why I brought that up. Balance of trade is another economic concept. Exports minus imports. It's what a country, ships out minus what it ships in. All right. It's a little bit important, but you can look at it yourselves. Duty free. Has anybody ever bought anything duty free? I'm sure if you travel internationally, they make massive announcements. Buy duty free vodka, buy duty free this, buy duty free perfume. And what you'll notice is that they just raise the price on it. All right. Comparative advantage, we talked about that already. All right. Yeah, at the airport, everyone's always trying to get you to buy stuff, right? So stock tickers with high international exposure, Walmart, Alibaba is one that we can look at if we have a chance. Coca-Cola, Pfizer, McDonald's, and USO. All right. So there was a question in the homework about what do you call it? About oil and how important oil is for the economy. If you're in business, you should really know, where oil is. Okay. You should always, know what is oil at its all-time high? Where is it? Because if you don't know anything about oil, right? If you don't know anything about oil, we're 2010. We're not going to get any current 2010, 2016. Okay. I'm not going to get a good chart. Maybe here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So where oil is, it's a little higher than this now. Oil spiked in 2008. It was over $100 a barrel. More than a bottle. You should know where it's at, all right? Because right now, oil is probably around 50. And if you want to go into a business that's dependent on oil, like selling, SUVs or something like that, and the price of oil goes up, your business could get crushed, okay? So, when oil was high, that had a massive effect on everything, all right? Shipping stuff across the country. You really should always know where oil is. It's like if you were a sports fan and you didn't know who was leading the league. Okay, you got to know who's leading the league. If you're going to say you're a football fan, you got to know who the best football teams is, the best football players. It's the same idea. You got to know where oil is. You got to know where the stock market is. These are just basic things. This is why we check on them periodically. All right. So USO. Every morning I get up, I check this USO, and you can look at it over the last year. You can see that oil has been, it doesn't really have that long of a chart. Oil has been dumping since 2014. But I just look at it, over the last month. What's going on with oil? Is it rising? Is it falling? Because it has ramifications for even companies like Apple, right? Somebody tell me why, if oil is falling, that's bad for the stock market. Somebody tell me why. If oil is just going down every day, why is that bad for the stock market? Why is that bad for the economy? Because you think it could be good. It could be good and bad. But tell me why falling oil, which is what's happening right now, why that's considered to be a negative harbinger for the economy. Nobody? All right. Falling oil is basically a sign that the economy is slowing down. Okay, so it's something to watch, closely. All right. So let's go to the next one. All right, a tariff, it's just a tax or a duty that a government charges on goods coming into or out of the country. We think that's clear. I think most of you get that. Why they exist, well, first of all, they restrict trade. They raise prices. If you go to a bar and order a Budweiser, it could be $4. If you order a Heineken, it could be $6. Like an imported beer is always more. An imported car is almost always going to be more than a domestic car. Not always, but almost always. All right. It's probably not a good analogy because the domestic cars are so expensive and so terrible. All right. Governments do this for a variety of reasons. So first of all, when a government does anything, right, you can't believe them. Right? So a lot of times politicians get up and say, we're going to restrict trade because we want our domestic producers to do better. We want our local farmers to not have to compete with South America and Africa and so on and so forth. But sometimes they just say this because the farmers give them money. They almost like pay them off to erect the tariff on competitors. All right. They also raise. John, I'm going to kill my webcam now. Okay, so you can stop down there. They also put tariffs on to raise tax revenue. One thing you notice about governments, it doesn't matter if they're, if it's Philadelphia or if it's France, is what governments do is, and even New York City, they don't like to tax the people that vote for them, right? So in New York City, what they try to do is they try to tax the commuters, people that come in from New Jersey and Long Island and Connecticut, and they do that by raising the prices on the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North Railroad. It's like basically a way for them to raise revenue from people that don't live there, right? Because if a government keeps taxing you, you're gonna vote the bums out, right? And you'll see this with rental cars too. If you travel anywhere, you'll see 20% taxes on rental cars. So countries are the same way. They try to tax people that they're not politically liable to, even though when they put tariffs and duties and stuff and restrict trade, it actually hurts their own constituents. All right. Okay. So, but there is good news, right? If you look historically, if you look at the average tariff rate in, like, say, America over the year, I mean, it was over 50%, 30, 40% for years. And since the 70s, it's really gone down to about 5% or even lower. All right. So this is why there was a question about globalization on the homework. This is why globalization is this massive thing. We have booms in technology, we have booms in transportation, and we have unrestricted or much less restricted trade. We might have gotten to where we are sooner if we didn't have all these prohibitive, tariffs beforehand. All right. So let's look at the fidget spinner thing, because does anybody have a fidget spinner? Does anybody not know what it is? I just learned myself. Let me know in the chat box if you have a fidget spinner, if you know anything about it. Okay. It's Alexander has one. It's you'll see them being sold on the streets of New York, and you can look at these prices here. But if you go into a mall, I saw them in a mall in Nashville, Tennessee. I think they're $20 or $15 to $20. But you guys sell them? Tell me where you buy them from and where you sell them. We got the J boys saying that they sell them. All right, because right now, one of the hardest things to do is to import them from China. All right, I actually have a funny story about these fidget spinners, because when we were at the chess tournament last week, I was talking to this mom I think she was from Texas, and she said that she confiscated 71 fidget spinners from students in school. Okay. She also said that, actually, no, she didn't confiscate 71. She confiscated a bunch. But she said that students in school bring in a doctor's note. This is serious, so brace yourselves. They bring in a doctor's note, and they say that they need the fidget spinner because they're ADHD. Okay? Does anybody know what that means? ADHD, you should know what that means. All right, so if we just go on Amazon. Yeah, so it is crazy, Catherine. So look at, you have doctors saying that a child needs a fidget spinner because the schools have banned fidget spinners, right? So here's another risk, right? Say you go out and you buy 1 million fidget spinners, right? Because you're selling like hotcakes. You're buying them in China at very low prices too. And then all of a sudden the schools ban them. Okay? That can be a problem, right? Maybe maybe CVS and Dwayne Reed will have prescriptions prescription fidget spinner. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But let's take a look at it from a business standpoint. Now, where is that one? I have a great I have a I have a great thing I want to show you on this fidget spinner. Come on. Where is it? Okay. So let's look at this. Well, no, I wanted to show you first. Look at these fidget spinners, how they're marketed. Relieves ADHD, anxiety, and boredom. All right. Stress reducer. Stress reducer. And there was a real funny thing here that said that, I looked, if this got bad ratings, why would I buy if it has bad ratings? So then I go read the one-star reviews, and they say it doesn't flick, it falls apart. It's really funny. All right. Let's look at this article here. Inside the fidget spinner gold rush. And I will put this in the membership portal so you all can see it. All right. In April, a smartphone repair shop. Now, you guys are all going to be kicking yourselves. When I was reading this yesterday, I'm talking to my kids. Okay, they're saying that they sell the fidget spinners in the Wall Street area, the J-Boys. Excellent. So, there's always people making money easier and faster than you. And you can really I should have done that. I knew they were big. I should have ordered a bunch. So he sold 20,000 fidget spinners. All right. He just ordered more from a supplier, but he'll have to wait. I placed an order for 10,000 fidget spinners, and I couldn't get them because someone else placed an order for 2 million. So they jumped to the front of the line. Now, these fidget spinners, I have a good, let's see, where is this? I had a good price. You could see where you buy them. Fidget spinner. Okay. Okay, let me pull this over. So now I'm on this website that, I mentioned as a stock ticker, Alibaba. Alibaba is a massive Chinese kind of like search engine, eBay commerce site, right? It's like the Google and the eBay of China. I mean, I'm not even totally sure. This is kind of the first time I went to the site, although I've been hearing about it for years. So let's look at this. You could go on Alibaba and you could buy fidget spinners between 90 cents and $2.50. These fidget spinners, you could put a logo on them, 25 cents to 85 cents. Now, tell me what you guys are seeing. You have to buy 1,000 of them. Now, tell me, Catherine wants to know how it's an educational toy. Well, it is whatever people think it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It's selling, right? Somebody tell me how much these fidget spinners are selling for on the streets of New York and in their malls. I mean, every mall I've seen has people set up. Omar's saying $10. I think, Christy, were they $20 in the mall? She saw them for $20. I know on the street that they're cheaper, but you can see that they only cost $1 to make. Unless you get the high-end ones, right? So just think, if you bought 1,000 of these, now don't, just think, if you buy 1,000 of these, right, you can sell, and say you're a student in a school, you could sell them for $2, instantly, you could, or $3 or $4, and you can make a lot of money fast. I mean, these things will go. Now, if we go back to what this guy says, let's just see, where's that article? Inside the fidget spinner gold rush. All right. So people are ordering 2 million. Now listen to this. Let's read this paragraph here. Unlike many toy crazes, fidget spinners are a wild west for global capitalists looking to cash in on a craze. There are no patents or trademarks to worry about infringing. They're cheap to make and there's little risk in investing in 500 or 1,000 of them. All right. Maybe I should just put this. I'll put this in the chat box later on. I don't want to put it now. I'm selling a couple thousand a week just walking around and asking stores if they want them. This guy says he's been taking them to gas stations, Verizon chain. You make them? All right. Maybe you guys should just send me some pictures. Maybe we can talk about them next week. I would be interested in seeing that. People selling them out of the back of their cars. I mean, when you can sell something that's small at a high margin, your only problem is getting them. Right? You just need to get them. Now, let's talk about the person who ordered 2 million fidget spinners. What type of risk do they have when they order 2 million fidget spinners from China? Somebody tell me. What could happen to them? First of all, they're going to have to spend $2 million, right? They probably have to put the money up front, or at least some of it. Okay, Alexander says if the craze dies, well, they could get stuck. So the person who's writing a $2 million check, do you think that they probably have a lot of money, right? But, theoretically, you could go to the bank down the street and say, I want a letter of credit for $2 million. I want to buy these fidget spinners. And they could front you the whole money. But you don't think they're paying $1 each, Omar? I think they are. You think even cheaper? Okay. All right. Well, some of them, look, I'm not an expert on fidget spinners, but if they want to sell them for a little more in America, maybe they need. I mean, 2 million fidget spinners is a lot of fidget spinners. If you think about it, there's only 3 million people in America, 300 million people in America, right? So you're talking about you're getting close to 1% of the population of America. It's a lot, right? But if he was able to pull off 2 million fidget spinners, a couple of things. One, maybe they get to hire. Maybe they don't even put any money up front. So maybe it's all based on the bank fronts the money. Okay, so maybe there's less risk than you think. Maybe they're incorporated and they borrow from a bank. So if there's a problem, they don't even really lose that much money. Okay, but maybe there's an article or there's a story on 2020 that says there's lead in fidget spinners, right? Or that they're choking hazard for babies. And the government, because I did have one of these things to show you, and the government says we're halting fidget spinners at the port. Or what if the longshoremen, the people who unload them, what if they decide to go on strike and they're not, what if they get stolen? I don't know if any of you have watched The Sopranos or any of those adult TV shows where they're robbing trucks all the time. A buddy of mine has a trucking company, and he says that when they have cell phones in the truck, that there's $2 million, over $1 million worth of merchandise in the truck, and people hijack them, right? So you need insurance on these things, right? So it's a little risky, but what's the opposite of risk, right? Or the flip side of risk is reward. Look at the reward. Think about this. You could be quick on your feet, and you could say, you know what? This fidget spinner is taking off. I'm going to buy, 100,000 fidget spinners at $1. You might, before you even get them over here, you might be able to sell them for $2 to somebody. You might say, hey, want to take over my order? It's $2. It's 200,000. That person might be more aggressive than you. So this is like trading a stock, right? You're buying something that's hot because you know someone else is going to buy it. Okay. So you're saying there's a patent on this, Alexander, for the fidget spinner? I mean, good luck. Good luck trying to, enforce these things. It's all these kind of. Oh, so if we read this article, and I will have to put this in the chat box. I will have to put this in the chat box. I don't know about that link. Sometimes there's inappropriate stuff on these links, so use your discretion. What else did I want to show you here? Okay. Okay, Sonny Lynn, who has a smartphone repair shop in St. Mark's Place. The J-Boy is saying the patent expired. All right. I didn't know patents could expire, but I guess they can. She needs a lot of money to fight this. If you see fidget spinners on the street, they're not going to have any name brand on them, right? Doesn't even bother selling store. He walks up and down the streets of Manhattan hawking them to bodegas. All right, what I also heard is, and it might be in this article, anyone who sells iPhone screens knows the same people who can buy spinners by the hundreds or the thousands. I mean, this is just amazing, right? Now, so this is just the flavor of the moment. What was the thing that was hot before, right? It was, what do they call it? Silly bands?
That was a long time
Okay, she's telling me it was a long time ago. Silly bands. I don't even know. Oh no, last year they said it was loom bands. Yeah, loom bands. The other thing is hoverboards. So hoverboards last year were a big deal. And apparently, they're $500 here, and someone in China decided to knock them off, and they're making them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And then what happened? What are baby blades? These are baby blades at. I mean, like, literally, this is like, if you think about this, you could have made, if you were on your game, if you took a little bit of risk, you could have bought 100,000 fidget spinners for about $60,000, right? Beyblades, okay. Oh yeah, Beyblades, but no, I think that was a big toy company, Catherine. Beyblades. Yeah, that's a big toy company. You could have bought 100,000, and I could have done this myself too. 100,000 fidget spinners, and Omar is saying you can get them cheaper for $60,000. Look, I just invested $60,000 on that trade I did in the beginning of March when I shorted the market. That was a $60,000 trade. I only have to put up $30,000 to put it on. It's 50% margin. But I could have bought 100,000 fidget spinners, okay? But this is the type of stuff that, I wasn't trained. When I was your age, I wasn't trained to look for these things. And I was living in an area that didn't even know what fidget spinners were. This stuff, and we have a lot of students in the class, this stuff hits New York first, right? And it goes from New York, and then it goes to Phoenix, and then it goes to Kansas. So in New York, you're going to see these things fast and first, all right? So, keep this in mind for the next thing. You could have retired off this stuff. If you had a connection, if you were like perceptive, there's a great quote by Abraham Lincoln. It says, "Good things come to those who wait, but only those things left by those who hustle." Right? In other words, people who hustle, they can capitalize on these things. And that's really, as an entrepreneur, that's what you want to be. You don't want to be so focused on, like, I'm an entrepreneur, I only do this or that. You can see these people with these cell phone stores. They own a cell phone repair shop, and they're selling fidget spinners, right? They said that all the cell phone manufacturers, the factories in China and elsewhere have gone crazy and totally changed their production lines to keep up with the demand for these things. All right, so maybe by next week the thing will be over. But I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right, so let me go back to my slides. I have a few more minutes. It's a fascinating case study just to look at this thing that's going on right now, these fidget spinners. And look, you can differentiate them, right? You can get them printed differently. You can get there's people putting LED lights on them. And then who knows who has seen, somebody tell me if you've seen this yet. Have you seen this? I mean, there are so many derivatives. There are so many offshoots to this craze, right? These fidget cubes. You could probably go online and buy these fidget cubes for $10, and you could probably sell them for $12 in school, right? Nayla has them. I think my kids. You could sell them for $12. You could make $2 a cube. You could buy 20 of them for $10, $200, and 20. You could make $40 in a day probably. Especially in these if you're in a private school or if you're in New York area, these kids have money. And it's contraband. Contraband is like it's banned. You're not supposed to have it. That's why these kids want it, right? They're not supposed to have it. So I texted one of my friends last night. She's a teacher. And I was thinking about prepping for this class. And I said, do you have a fidget spinner for me that I could, I said, did you confiscate any from your students? And she says, no, I haven't. She says, why do these kids need, she's a high school teacher. She says, why do these kids need a fidget spinner when they all have a fidget phone that they can mess with? Right? So look, I mean, if we just Google fidget anything on Amazon, you're going to find all sorts of stuff. Maybe I'm going to make John go or Chrissy buy 10 of these fidget cubes and try to sell them. But, we're a little late. Look at this fidget cube, $2. I'm sure it breaks in an hour, but but it's only $2, right? Fidget spinner, high-speed stainless. Okay, let's just search for fidget. Let's see what else comes up. Fidget, rainbow, metal, cheap, cube. They'll have other stuff. All right. All right. Where can we buy them from you? Send me a link or a picture. I can't come to your house. I want to see those. I want to see them. Yeah. So what is Omar putting in here? Let me just see this. He's putting in Alibaba link. Let's see. Yeah, $1 for these magnetic anti-stress fidget cubes. All right. So, I mean, there are people that watch these trends and 5,000 pieces. So you got to put 5,000 bucks up. Let's just see what we can. Do we have a good image of it? Yeah, they're $1 each. Now, the question is, you know, when are they going to get here? Do you know what I mean? Like if I order these, I'm not familiar with this site. I'm not familiar with duties or taxes. Like, is this going to include delivery? Like that's a question. It says minimum. Oh, okay. It says minimum order is 1, right? But supply ability 5,000 pieces per week. Oh, I was looking at this. I just want to know if I order this, how am I going to get it? Like, what's the shipping? I would have to click through this and try to order it. Well, let's just start order. Let's just see what happens. Start order. How many do I need? Let's just say 20. Shipping method, sea freight. Oh, it's going to come over on sea freight. So how long is that going to take? They take a long time to ship from China. Okay. What's a long time? Is it a week? Is it 3 months? You know, like that's the thing. That's the question. I mean, if I click on air cargo, it's going to cost more. A month. They're telling me it's going to take a month or 2 to get here. All right. So in 2 months, school's going to be out, right? I mean, school's going to be out, and you know we're all late on this. You know, there's probably an iteration or a derivative, but the idea is massive. And you know, we didn't talk much about the fundamentals of importing and exporting, but it's rife with opportunity, right? Absolutely rife. Okay, here, I'm just going to go over a couple more of these slides. We never get through them all. Did I have this question in the homework? I might have. The top export that we send to China is actually trash. And you can find pictures online. We literally they send over ships of fidget spinners. And we on those ships, I believe, we put trash and they take it back and they comb through it for scrap, for anything that they can reuse. It's really unbelievable. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. You can see all this stuff on the membership portal, the slides, the link is there always. They're always embedded on the portal. But China is a big deal, right? And it's not going away. Okay. This tariff, I'll have a link to that. Okay. So how do you avoid, circumvent, or reduce tariffs? Because, you know, on a fidget spinner, it's probably not that high. We looked, it's probably about 5% or something like that you're going to have to pay. One of the things that happened back in the 80s when I was a kid is there was a movement against Japanese cars, right? So Toyota, Nissan. There are a lot of people who fought in World War II, and they're like, oh, why are we buying Japanese cars? You know, they attacked us, and they had short memories, and so there was a whole movement away from buying Japan. And Japan, if I could ever show you the Japanese stock market, let's see if we can show you the Japanese stock market in a Nikkei historical chart. Okay, so you always have to understand the context of the. You always have to understand the context of the. Oh, they don't even have it there. Okay, wait. Why isn't Google going back further than that? This is something you should also know as well. Okay, what did the Japanese stock market do? Okay, here it is. Back in the 80s, you look at 1988, 1989. See, right now all we talk about is China. But in the 80s, the Japanese stock market was roaring. Sony was, you know, the Apple of its time. And it looked like Japan was going to conquer the world. So there was a whole movement to not buy Japanese cars, right? Well, you know, you have older people, World War II veterans. I'm not going to buy a Japanese car. You know, people wouldn't buy them, right? And so there was like a backlash against Japan. And so what happens? Well, how does Japan like kind of reduce any trade barriers, any discontent, or negative feelings towards it? Well, they do joint ventures and they start producing over here. So there are Toyota cars produced in America. Okay, they just take their assembly line and their whatever, and they just produce them in America, and that actually saves them money on shipping them, right? So maybe it costs more money to produce in America, but then they save that money on shipping. And they also, now they can say they're made in America as well. So, you know, there are ways to avoid, circumvent, and reduce tariffs. And this is what businesses do all the time. All right. And as a small entrepreneur, you know, you can just mail stuff and stay under the radar. You know, you could mail 100, you'd have someone in China mail you 100 fidget spinners and no one's going to see it. Right. That might even be, a wise thing to do, but you can't get 1 million fidget spinners sent to you. All right. Let me just read these chat box comments. Okay. 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 All right, Omar. Let me get back to you on that. All right. The YouTube channel, you want to make a video. Omar wants to make a YouTube channel, and he's having trouble figuring out the name. You can have, if you have an idea for a YouTube channel, just grab the name. All right. Because pretty soon it'll be gone. All right. And you can have actually multiple YouTube channels in your same name. All right, that's a separate question. Let me get back to you on that. This is an interesting graph to look at, or chart to look at. You can see who the states all trade with, and these are kind of like fundamentals, right? Like, did you know that Florida trades a lot with Brazil? Like, what comes into Florida from Brazil? Like, what is it? You can go look it up. It's probably oil. It's probably commodities, fruits, vegetables. It's all interesting stuff. All right. I'll have this article about people shipping drugs through the mail. All right. So one of the risks, we only have a couple minutes left here. One of the risks, and there are a lot of risks, we talked about a bunch already. When you try to import and export things, you have delivery problems. You could have quality problems. I mean, if you ordered 1 million fidget spinners and they showed up and they were broken, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to sue somebody in China? Like that seems like it would be very, 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 very hard to do, right? So now, if you're a big company, you can lose $1 million or $2 million or whatever. But if you're the guy who got aggressive and borrowed against his house to buy fidget spinners, and trust me, people do this. You could probably go online and find fidget spinner millionaires at some point, and you'll find people who risked everything to go into fidget spinners, like all in. All right. You could have payment problems, the tariffs, taxes, and then you could have political problems, right? So here, look what happened in Zimbabwe. The government just decides to take over a mine. So, a mining company is trying to take gold or oil or whatever out, and the government just changes the rules. They'll just confiscate your stuff, all right? So that doesn't mean you don't go over there and take that risk. That just means when you go over there, you understand your risk. Okay, you understand you could lose it all. Most business problems come from people underestimating their risks, right? You can always have problems when you ship from China through, unionized longshoremen in California. All right. This is an interesting graph here. You can see, for those of you in New York, you probably see these terminals and these ports and probably don't think much of them. I know I don't either. This Red Hook container terminal, I mean, you got to know that most of this stuff is coming in through China there, and it's coming through the Panama Canal. All right, so let's talk about Japan for a second. We already talked about it a little bit. They've always said that Japan imports everything. And the reason they import everything is because they're not rich in natural resources. Right? They're a processor nation. They import stuff, raw materials, and then they make them, and then they export the finished goods. Okay, so there was actually a study done on countries that got aid from the UN, not the UN, but got aid from all these multinational organizations. And the countries that got aid from like a third party, like welfare, they didn't do so well. Okay. You think about a child, right? If a child is spoiled, right, are they going to work hard in their studies? Are they going to try? Are they going to make? They're not going to do anything. It's the same thing. So Japan, one of the reasons there's such a good, economic power, is because they don't have raw materials. So they had to use their brains. They had to be very, very creative. And a lot of the countries in Africa, in the Mideast, or wherever else, who just extract their wealth, who just take oil out of the ground or coal out of mines. People countries who just extract their wealth, like they're kind of like they're like kids who are born rich, right? They don't work that hard, and they actually don't do well in the long run. All right, so there was a question about on the homework about I think the Smoot-Hawley tariff. Back in World War II, the U.S. put some type of embargo on oil, and I'm not even totally sure why. I think that, but they stopped sending oil to Japan, or there was the threat of it, or I'm not even sure. You can go Google it yourselves. But Japan, they say that Japan lashed out because they needed, they were going to die if they didn't have, they couldn't import stuff in, right? They would starve. All right. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. It's not really that important to me 60 years later. But it is interesting to look at, not just countries, but cities in America, any business that relies on kind of like a subsidy. And if you don't rely on a subsidy, it's going to make you stronger in the long run. All right. And so if you want to start a business, do you want to go get money from Shark Tank, or do you want to, kind of like use your savings and grow slowly? Like what's a better idea? We've talked about this before, is that it's better to use your own resources than it is to get, a loan from, an investment company or a bank. All right. So let me see what else we have here, because we have to stop. I can't see what time it is. Oh, we're over. Okay. We are over. All right. We will maybe come back to this, maybe not. Next week, we're going to do trading. We're going to do a lot on the stock market. We're going to go a little more in depth than we went back in the fall. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. Most of you know that I traded professionally, or have traded professionally, for over 20 years, really. So I know a lot about this stuff, and people keep asking me questions. So we'll go in. It's time to go back into that in more in depth. And again, if anybody wants to talk about stuff, fidget spinners or whatever, any ideas, certain students are always emailing me privately. Feel free to do that. And I look forward to having you guys up there. Like we had Joey do his Challenge Me 2 site a couple weeks ago, and that was great. All right, so everybody, you have a good weekend. Get outside if you're in New York. It's nice and warm. And look for my email over the weekend. We'll have the link to it and the homework. Thanks again. Great participation as always. I'll see you guys next week.